tonight.
We are going to tell you at every instance when we have new information about the storm what it is.
Mayor Mamdani vowing to keep New Yorkers updated as the 5 boroughs brace for a major weekend winter storm. Later tonight, I'll be joined in studio by the city's new Transportation Commissioner, Mike Flynn, to talk about his plans to make buses faster and his vision for making streets safer. And I'll break down this week's top headlines, including Mamdani's calls to raise taxes on the wealthy over Hochul's objections, when I'm joined by 3 top journalists in our Reporters Roundtable. For the best news, debate, and analysis of New York politics, join us inside City Hall. Good evening and welcome to Inside City Hall for Friday, January 23rd, 2026. I'm Bobby Kuza. A significant winter storm is expected to hit the 5 boroughs this weekend, bringing snow, ice, and dangerous travel conditions. Arctic air is moving in tonight with temperatures in the teens by midnight and wind chills as low as 10 degrees below zero. A winter storm warning is then in effect for the city from 3 a.m. Sunday to 6 p.m. on Monday, with 6 to 12 inches of snow and ice expected. For more on what you can expect, we begin tonight with our chief meteorologist, John David. Good evening, John.
Hi there, Bobby. This is a big storm. It stretches all the way from Texas. Take a look. Louisville, Nashville, places in the south that don't normally see snow. Washington, D.C., they could get as much as a foot of snow. So this is a big storm affecting a lot of people. You can see for us here in New York City, we're in the pink. So that is a winter storm warning. So that is a serious warning. Means we're expecting over 6 inches of snow. This is what it looks on the Futurecast. Look how the storm spreads quickly on Saturday into Sunday, and we get into that snow. So some of the things you really need to keep in mind with this snow is it's going to come down heavy for a couple hours, and we're going to time that out for you in a moment. Take a look at snowfall expected around the region. The heaviest snows are going to be to our north, so we're talking about Poughkeepsie up into Springfield, Albany, almost a foot of snow, Boston over 9 inches. Let's go in, take a look at your neighborhood numbers and show you what the weather models are showing for each neighborhood. So generally looking at Springfield Gardens, St. George, Williamsburg, numbers all come out 9–10 inches. So that is a good amount of snow. No, this is not going to be one for the record books. Probably going to be, but still, it really is going to impact us. So the big thing is in the afternoon, the snowfall rates will be 1 to 2 inches an hour. That means we're going to go from bare ground to 6 inches in about 2 to 3 hours. That's all Sunday afternoon. That's when you don't want to get caught outside. So the snow starts around 7. Heaviest in the afternoon and early evening. By 8 o'clock Sunday night, most of the accumulation is over. So your snow preps, we know these. We live in New York City. It snows here, but hasn't snowed like this in a while. Snow boots, snow shovel. Limit that travel on Sunday. Stay local. And then if you know, park on the left. If you've got a car and you park on a one-way street, you park on the left. The plow is pushing the snow to the right. You're going to save yourself a lot of time when you eventually dig out. So, yeah, we're going to track this carefully, Bobby. But, yeah, we've got the Arctic cold. Now we've got that snow poised to come here. And certainly, 8–9 inches, that's a good amount of snow.
So one of the big questions for our new to keep the schools open on Monday. I mean, what are some of the considerations there? Because if most of it's done by Sunday night, you would think the streets could be cleared and everything could be back up and running in time for school Monday morning.
Yeah, right. So Monday we will see some snow showers around, and historically when they've called school or made it a virtual day, it's when there's active dangerous weather, active winds or active snow. When we get to Monday, we're not going to have that. All the real kind of dangerous part of this storm all happens Sunday. So if you got homework due on Monday, I think you should get it done. I wouldn't risk it.
All right, John David, thank you so much for that report. And with that snowstorm headed for the city this weekend, Mayor Mamdani took to the airwaves today to lay out his game plan directly to New Yorkers. Our Kelly Mena joins me now with more on that part of the story. Good evening, Kelly.
Good evening, Bobby. And Mayor Mamdani is relying on preparation, and more. He readies his administration and this city for the city's storm that's coming this weekend.
Just starting at 6 a.m. today, sanitation workers brining the highways and major roads of our city, all preemptively to prepare for what we're going to see this weekend.
With the city's snowstorm plan in full motion, Mayor Zohran Mamdani took to the airwaves to communicate directly with New Yorkers. The impending snowstorm will present Mamdani with his first major test since taking office earlier this month. The mayor told New York One on Friday he's feeling confident about preparations.
And we're going to be transforming what is our typical DSNY operation into the nation's largest snow fighting operation.
One of the biggest challenges coming with the storm will be what to do about school on Monday. The mayor said no matter how many inches fall, kids will be learning.
Monday is either going to be a remote learning day or it's going to be an in-person school day. It's not going to be a traditional snow day.
However, the mayor's call on Sunday on whether students go remote or in person buildings that house K through 5, 6 through 8, or K through 8th grades. Mamdani reiterated he's feeling good about the city's ability to respond to the storm.
Expectations are starting around 6 inches of snow. They range all the way up to a foot. And we just want New Yorkers to take as many precautions as possible. That is the biggest snowfall we've gotten in a while, but I want to rest assured for every New Yorker that this city is prepared.
Preparations include over 2,000 sanitation workers doing shifts around the clock starting Saturday, with over 2,000 snowplows going out once 2 inches have fallen. Trains and buses will be running. The head of the MTA said there will be special vehicles clearing streets, buses will be fitted with chains, and special de-icing equipment will be at the ready.
This ain't our first rodeo at the MTA. We have handled big storms. New Yorkers have handled big storms, and we're ready to do this.
Governor Hochul declared a state of emergency early Friday morning, which will allow for state resources to be deployed more efficiently. To Monday, Mamdani emphasized that New Yorkers should stay home.
Take a breath and stay home. Stay indoors, stay off the roads, watch the snow come down, watch the worst possible reality TV show you can find, and take some time away from the roads.
And on top of staying at home, Mamdani also asked New Yorkers to make sure they're paying attention for those updates throughout the weekend from city officials, Bobby.
So we heard John Davitt say he thinks the schools may be open on Monday. I mean, this has been a lot of the talk. This is a lot of the questions at the news briefing this morning. It seems like they're prepared for any eventuality, right? They want to make sure that they're ready if the schools have to stay closed on Monday.
That's right. And that traditional snow day now seems something of the past, that it's either going to be in person on Monday or remote for the city's youngest students. Just to clarify, those are going to be students who are in buildings housing grades 6 through 8, K through 8, or It's been one of the biggest things because, as we know, in the past, there's been so many problems, and they really cropped up during the pandemic when it comes to remote learning. How do parents log on? How early to log on? How to keep kids interested in these long lessons? So that is really a test that the administration has been doing. They've stress tested, made sure that there's enough capacity when it comes to the internet and being able to get online. And they said that the most recent test was done as of December. So they're feeling confident about that they'll be able to get it done on Monday if that's the decision.
If needed. All right, Kelly Mena, thank you for that report. And in other news, early voting for the special election on February 3rd will be suspended on Sunday and Monday due to the weather. Those elections will fill seats vacated by Mayor Mamdani in the 36th Assembly District in Queens, Manhattan Borough President Brad Hoylman-Siegel in the State Senate District 47 in Manhattan, and City Council Member Harvey Epstein in Assembly District 74 in Manhattan. Governor Hochul says the State Board of Elections plans to add additional hours to make up for that lost voting time. It is time now for a break. Coming up, we will give you the details that the NYPD is taking too long to process gun permits and is in violation of the Second Amendment. Stay with us. We are back in a minute.
Every day tells a new story. At Mornings on One, we're dedicated to bringing you the stories that matter most to start your day. With in-depth coverage of the day's news.
I'm Pat Kernan. Here are the stories we're following.
And weather updates every 10 minutes.
Tomorrow, some morning sunshine possible. Clouds take over.
It's our responsibility to get you the information you need before you head out the door. Mornings on One. Weekdays starting at 6 on the Spectrum News app. Free for Spectrum and Xfinity customers.
Spectrum TV, isn't that only live TV?
No, it's only all my favorite streaming.
Okay.
It's only all included at no extra cost. And that's the magic of math. Will this be on the test?
Sure. Why not?
It's only one simple payment for all our TV. We gotta simplify and win. Winning is equally important.
If not, more so.
Yeah!
Only Spectrum TV, fixed TV.
I'm Sandra, this is Jorge, and we were adopted in 2019. I remember when they first came to us, Michael was already a teenager. The whole cliche of they're so lucky to have you guys, and it's the other way around. They have changed our family for the better. They chose to love us. They didn't have to. They chose us. Family.
Learn about adopting a teen from foster care. You can't imagine the reward. Visit adoptuskids.org.
And that's a look at some of what's in the papers this morning. You're done with the sports section.
This story is about the latest chapter for a beloved local business.
It's a beautiful day with temperatures in the 60s, but showers are expected in the next hour.
In a city that's always on the go, it's important to stop to hear the stories that connect us.
The news that matters to New Yorkers. That's what brings us together. That's Mornings on One.
Weekdays starting at 6.
Welcome back to Inside City Hall. A new lawsuit is challenging the NYPD over delays in issuing gun permits that let New Yorkers carry a concealed firearm in public. The lawsuit says the delays amount to a violation of the Second Amendment right to bear arms. The lawyer behind the case joined Queens Republican Councilwoman Vicky Palladino and have waited too long for their permits. Our Dan Rivoli joins me now with more on that story. Good evening, Dan.
Good evening, Bobby. So a year ago, I debuted my report here on Inside City Hall about the pervasive delays at the NYPD License Division on processing these permits for concealed carry firearm permits. And now the lawsuit says that this is more than just a violation of the rules and regulations, but it amounts to a civil rights violation.
We do the full 18-hour training course. We do one-on-one private coaching.
Chris Gomans co-founded a business offering firearms training, including the 18-hour course necessary to get an NYPD concealed carry license. Gomans has one of his own.
Everything on the city's punch list submitted and waited and waited and waited, and eventually took me 22 months.
That's longer than the 6-month timeline under state law. Gomans joined other concealed carry applicants at the office of Councilwoman Vicky Palladino of a lawsuit challenging delays at the NYPD License Division.
These are law-abiding citizens. It's set up as such. Don't prolong this any longer.
The suit, filed on behalf of 4 plaintiffs in Brooklyn and Queens, argues that these delays are violations under the Second Amendment's right to bear arms.
There's no excuse for anybody to say that the NYPD is backed up. That's not an excuse to the constitutional rights.
It's the latest legal challenge to the NYPD License Division. New York 1 last year investigated the pervasive delays in the NYPD License Division's processing of concealed carry permits. The report featured Jason Sulis, who had to hire a lawyer to get his concealed carry permit. He's a plaintiff in the 2025 federal suit, which is still pending. The NYPD recorded thousands more applications, each requiring a $340 fee for concealed carry permits after the Supreme Court knocked down restrictions limiting who can have a firearm in public. The NYPD will continue to maintain its high standards when conducting background checks and issuing permits irrespective of volume. This process can be lengthy to ensure the thorough screening and review of applicants. Gomans said the process left him frustrated.
Frustrated, aggravated, dissuaded to a degree, but also empowered to help people get through that process.
Palladino says she gets requests for help from people in her district.
I'm hoping.
That's right.
Hoping she can help me out.
Right.
Even from outside the district, like James Renier, a Long Island resident.
And that is their Second Amendment right, should be able to be handled in a timely fashion.
Renier said he had an easier time getting permits outside of New York City.
And it's never been this frustrating. And I'm a law-abiding citizen, so it shouldn't be a problem.
He hopes this lawsuit will change that. Councilwoman Palladino had introduced legislation that would $140 licensing application fee. And Bobby, that fee is a big issue for gun rights advocates because they say the NYPD, you think of thousands of applications, $340 a pop, that could be in the millions of dollars. The NYPD can afford to put on a few more investigators to process these applications more quickly.
I mean, so much of this has been litigated in terms of New York's concealed carry law. So where things stand now, you can apply and you don't need to have some sort of special reason for needing a gun, which is the way that the law used to be written.
That's right. You used to have a special cause, and we would think of like people in the security industry, or if you were a diamond merchant carrying around large quantities of cash or merchandise and you wanted protection. Supreme Court said, no, you don't need a special reason.
Right. All right, Dan Rivoli, thank you so much for that report. It's time now for a break. Coming up, we'll talk about the U.S. finalizing its exit from the World Health Organization and what that means for the health of Americans.
Stand clear of the closing doors, please.
There's nothing quite like the feeling of going to the theater. Onstage celebrates that excitement every week by taking you behind the scenes with the latest news and in-depth interviews of the hottest shows on and off Broadway. So grab a seat, because this is a show you won't want to miss. Join us every Saturday and Sunday at 7:30 p.m. for Onstage.
Onstage is presented by your Tri-State Cadillac dealers. Discover which Cadillac is right for you and elevate your journey.
It's only a hike. It's only made possible by Spectrum Business connecting healthcare providers of all sizes. Like hospitals relying on the Spectrum Fiber broadband network with industry-leading reliability. Data safe with advanced security. Pharmacies accessing records in the cloud without fail. It's tailored connectivity solutions built for life-changing moments. It's only a hike. It's only everything. Spectrum Business.
Mom was always organized, but she started forgetting to pay her bills on time.
And she'd buy the same gifts over and over.
Telling the girls about my Alzheimer's diagnosis was really hard. At first, we had our cries, but then we were like, okay, let's make a plan.
Early detection gave us time to adapt together.
It's so important for you to think about what you can do and making the most of what you have.
If you or your family are noticing changes, it could be Alzheimer's. Talk about seeing a doctor together.
From my time growing up in Queens watching New York One to my time reporting here, I've seen how quickly a story can change. At News All Day, we bring you the news as it's happening, from around the boroughs to your neighborhood, because our city never stops moving.
Hi, I'm Shannon Ferry with the day's developing stories, but first,
stay up to date and informed with News All Day, weekdays from noon to 4.
Welcome back to Inside City Hall. The U.S. has finalized its withdrawal from the World Health Organization. The president says the WHO mishandled the COVID crisis and needs reform. Critics say pulling out of the organization will endanger the health of Americans. Our Cassie Semien joins us now from our Washington, D.C. bureau with the very latest. Good evening, Cassie.
Good evening, Bobby. This is massive because, for starters, the U.S. supporter of the WHO, meaning that the ending of this partnership could impact not just the U.S., but our allies abroad. And as one expert I spoke with put it, germs don't know borders, and this move will likely weaken the U.S.'s posture when it comes to combating diseases in the coming years.
Withdrawing from the World Health Organization, sir?
Ooh, that's a big one.
Soon after taking office last January, President Donald Trump signed an executive order to pull out of the World Health Organization. 1 year later, the U.S. Thursday officially exited the agency, ending an association that began in 1948, when the United Nations began the WHO to coordinate the global response to health emergencies, such as Ebola outbreaks and pandemics. Health policy experts are slamming the withdrawal.
What the president has done is the most ruinous presidential decision in my lifetime. and will have harmful impacts on the American side, but only vulnerability.
In a joint statement, Health and Human Services Secretary Robert Kennedy Jr. and Secretary of State Marco Rubio defended the U.S. divorce from the agency, saying, "We will continue to work with countries and trusted health institutions to share best practices, strengthen preparedness, and protect our communities through a more focused, transparent, and effective model which delivers real outcomes rather than the bloated and inefficient bureaucracy of the WHO." President Trump first tried to pull out of the WHO late in his first term.
Because they have failed to make the requested and greatly needed reforms, we will be today terminating our relationship with the World Health Organization and redirecting those funds to other worldwide and deserving urgent global public health needs.
That effort ended when President Joe Biden took office. But President Trump resumed the withdrawal when he returned to the White House. Some public health law experts to disease outbreaks and delay the development of treatments.
I think we're much more vulnerable to pandemic and other health threats because without the United States as a strong and reliable partner and funder of WHO, it weakens WHO's capacity and it makes the United States and the rest of the world far more vulnerable.
Now, after the U.S. announced it had left the WHO, the state of California said that it will now join the WHO's Global Outbreak Alert and Response Network. And Bobby, other states could now follow suit.
So, Cassie, let me ask you about a different but related story, which is something called the Advisory Committee on Immunization Practices, which appears to be rejecting decades of science. They're saying vaccines for polio and for other shots should now be optional, right? Talk about that a little bit.
There has been this growing skepticism around vaccinations for years now, and that has really only been exacerbated by this Trump administration in recent weeks with those changes that they made to guidance for the childhood vaccination schedule, for example. And on a podcast that was released yesterday, the top doctor on the federal panel that recommends those vaccines suggested that it should be optional to vaccinate against polio and measles and perhaps all diseases, saying that by making it an option for parents rather than mandating it, it could restore public trust in the public health system. But any changes that would have to be made by that panel would need to be voted on by the full panel, right? Not just this one person's personal beliefs. And so far, the CDC hasn't made any changes. The new schedule continues to recommend vaccines against diseases such as measles and polio, as well as whooping cough for all children. But this is going to be something that we're really going to have to keep an eye on over the next several weeks and months, Bobby.
All right, Cassie Semyon in our so much for that report. In other news, a little notice change in how the Postal Service processes mail could have a big impact on this year's elections. Our Washington, D.C. Bureau reporter Shannon Ryan has more in this report.
The Postal Service has a warning for Americans voting by mail this year. Send in your ballots early. On December 24th, the Postal Service quietly clarified its postmarking policy, requiring that mail be postmarked the day it is processed by the Postal Service, instead of the day it is deposited. With the change, mailing in a ballot on or even a day or two before Election Day may result in the ballot not being counted. That's because it might not be processed and therefore postmarked until after the election.
If the voters kind of maintain their standard behavior of waiting and mailing things back, then election to reject more ballots.
The Postal Service changed its policies to reduce its losses because of a decline in mail volume. The slimming down means the USPS is increasingly relying on large mail processing hubs instead of neighborhood post offices. It's acknowledging mail takes now longer to process and postmark than it used to.
The mail delivery is not a 1 or 2 day, turnaround in many cases for many voters.
The policy most directly affects votes cast by mail in 14 states and the District of Columbia that accept mail-in ballots after Election Day only if they are postmarked on or before Election Day. Even more ballots could be thrown out if the courts uphold an executive order by President Donald Trump that bans states from accepting any mail-in ballots received after Election Day. States are challenging it, arguing that every state gets to administer. The case is now before the Supreme Court.
Depending on how the court decides, it could affect primaries, it could affect the general. Again, that planning piece is difficult.
A ruling is expected by the end of the court's term in early July, but primary races stretch from March to September. So elections administrators may need to scramble to implement a rule change.
Election officials understand that we are in a time of uncertainty, and what causes them concern is that in that uncertainty, there can be chaos.
And the Postal Service recommends that anyone voting by mail send in their ballot at least 1 week before Election Day. Voters can also go to their local post office and request their mail-in ballot be postmarked on the spot manually. In Washington, Shannon Ryan, Spectrum News.
It is time now for a break. Coming up, the city is preparing for the snow this weekend. I will speak with the new Department of Transportation Commissioner, Mike Flynn, about how he is preparing. A minute.
My time at New York One has shown me that in the city that never sleeps, the news never stops. So as the day winds down, turn to the rush hour.
Good afternoon, I'm Monica Burton.
To catch up on the stories that matter across the 5 boroughs, with in-depth interviews from the city's newsmakers, plus the latest forecast. Catching you up with today, preparing you for tomorrow. Right here on the Rush Hour. Weekdays from 4 to 7 p.m.
It's only a slice. It's only made possible by Spectrum, connecting businesses of all sizes, like small businesses, instantly serving up orders and inventory on the Spectrum Fiber broadband network. Seamlessly connecting to farmers in the field with tailored solutions that always deliver. It's only a slice. It's only everything. Get your business free fiber-powered internet forever. Call to find out how.
I'm Chris Jakimick. I served in the United States Air Force and I deployed 3 times. So in 2017, I was serving as an Air Force First Sergeant. Our motto in that role is my job is people, everyone is my business. But unfortunately in that year, I would lose my own brother, Lance Corporal Adam Jakimick, to suicide. The majority of veteran suicides are from guns. I store my weapons securely, not only for myself, but for my family. My service never stops.
At Spectrum Noticias, we recognize that our New York City community is vibrant and diverse.
Spectrum Noticias delivers balanced coverage of the stories that matter in our communities and across the country.
Are based in the neighborhoods we cover, ensuring you get in-depth reporting on what's happening in the places we call home.
So join us at Spectrum Noticias. We're always on, always there for you.
Now available on your TV. Check your local listings. Also available on the Spectrum News app.
Welcome back to Inside City Hall. During his midnight swearing-in ceremony on New Year's Day, Zohran Mamdani, in his very first move as mayor, announced Mike Flynn as the city's new transportation commissioner. Flynn had previously spent more than 2 decades working in transportation and urban planning, including almost a decade at City DOT in various roles during the Bloomberg administration. Commissioner Flynn joins me now for the very first time on Inside City Hall.
Thank you very much for having me on.
So let me ask, obviously the sanitation department does a lot of the heavy lifting with the snow removal and so forth, but you got a lot to worry about too between the roads and the bridges and the ferries. What are the impacts that you have to deal with this storm?
Absolutely. We play a strong supporting role. We've been getting prepped for a couple days now. There'll be thousands of city staff out there salting and de-icing. At DOT, we're coordinating closely with our partners, especially sanitation. We provide extra plows to them. We also go and clear the pedestrian and bike paths on the bridges, pedestrian plazas, some other public spaces. Staten Island Ferry, we're expecting to keep running through the storm, but obviously we'll be monitoring conditions and we'll let New Yorkers know if that's going to change. Yeah, so we're ready. We have a great team. More than anything, you know, I would strongly encourage New Yorkers to stay off the roads if you can. Stay home, stay safe.
Yeah. Sounds like you're going to be working through the weekend. So I had mentioned the midnight swearing in on New Year's Day of Zohran Mamdani. You were right there with them. I think you had the of any of Mamdani's appointees there at the City Hall, the old decommissioned City Hall station. Talk about how that happened. I mean, you probably were expecting more of a sort of humdrum news conference to announce your appointment, right?
It was very humbling. It was really exciting. As a lifelong transit nerd, you know, to that City Hall station is just this incredible testament to what government can achieve, what you know, what we can achieve with transit and how we can improve people's lives. That came together from my perspective. It was a bit of a whirlwind, but it was really exciting, and I think it was a testament to how this mayor and his administration see transportation being so critical to New Yorkers' daily lives, making a more affordable city, a safer city, saving time, and ultimately saving lives.
And by the way, just in terms of how you got hired, I read that you had no connection to Mdani. You just submitted your resume. Else did through the hiring portal?
I did submit my resume. You know, I'm always having conversations with people about policy. It's my passion. You know, it's not a huge industry. You know, so I was having conversations with the team and trying to, you know, going back a while, really trying to help think of ideas that can really move the needle for the city. So. But, you know, I think it was a really transparent and egalitarian hiring process, and it was just really thrilling and humbling to be selected.
Let's talk about fast and free buses, which is, of course, one of the mayor's big campaign promises. Free buses, you don't have a lot of say in. That's really up to the MTA and the state.
Right.
Fast buses, you do have some say in. You guys obviously control the roads and the street lights. That seems to me like maybe the harder part of the equation. I mean, people have been trying to speed up the buses for decades, right? So how do you do it?
Is it the harder part? That's a good question. But luckily there's no shortage of great ideas, and we already have 10+ years of, you know, different strategies to speed up buses, going all the way back to select bus service, partnering with the MTA. And we're learning, you know, about what kinds of approaches have a greater or lesser impact on moving the buses faster. And really, that's going to be our focus going forward, is how do we really meaningfully speed the buses up? How do we really save New Yorkers, especially working New Yorkers, time in their commutes? And it's really a twofold strategy, right? There's sort of a street design and operational approach with bus lanes, busways. I think we're going to need to look at greater forms of keeping those bus lanes clear. We want to keep looking at traffic signals as one strategy to move the buses faster. So certainly there's a street design aspect, but enforcement is also really critical, right? Like I said, we need to keep the bus lanes clear. We need people to respect buses, bus stops, bus lanes. So that's also a really important part. So our team is working really hard right now to double down on our strategies, and we'll be sharing a lot more on that in the near future.
You guys have already taken some action. You've taken some action just in the past few weeks, you know, restarting some projects that had been stalled under the Adams administration. I'm thinking of McGinnis Boulevard, the street changes there, 31st Street in Astoria, the Madison Avenue bus lane here in Manhattan. Talk about the approach. Is there a fundamentally different approach now under Mayor Mamdani than there was under the Adams administration?
I think there is. I mean, we want the data and what we hear from communities to really drive the decisions, right? We want to put the investments where they're going to have the greatest impact. It shouldn't be driven only by you know, interest groups or the loudest voices. We absolutely want to hear from a cross-section of communities that we're working in that's representative, you know. But at the end of the day, our job is also to make those improvements and to have that impact on New Yorkers' daily lives. And really, politics shouldn't be part of that.
You know, Mamdani talks a lot about pushing forward big, bold ideas, including at DOT. And I was thinking about your early career with the Bloomberg administration. You were working under Jeanette Sadik-Khan as DOT commissioner, who was kind of seen as a visionary, right, when it came to bike lanes and pedestrian plazas. So it's not as though you're reinventing the wheel, right? I mean, do you see yourself as sort of carrying on that legacy and doing some of the work that has already been going on for years?
I think you're right that, to a large extent, a lot of the solutions, a lot of the strategies are pretty. It's really about the follow-through at this point. So that'll be a lot of the focus. But, you know, that being said, I do think there's still a lot of room to aim higher, to be bolder, especially when it comes to buses, but also with traffic safety, with Vision Zero, with how we, you know, design our streets and the public spaces, the public realm. So, you know, it's a little bit of both. A lot of the focus will be just let's follow through on the things that we know work. But we certainly also want to keep pushing the envelope.
What's your message to drivers? Because I suspect there's probably people out there listening who, you know, they hear about bike lanes and bus lanes, not to mention congestion pricing. And as drivers, they feel sort of besieged by all of the transportation policy that we hear about. What do you say to that?
Well, I think the mayor's been clear that we want to make it a more affordable city, no matter how New Yorkers get around. Every design based on the context, right? So if you're doing a project in Midtown Manhattan, that's not the same as the South Shore of Staten Island or North Bronx or Eastern Queens. And we're always taking that into account. We're looking at the data, we're hearing from the community, and it's about balancing all those different considerations and laying out different options and making a good faith effort to develop the right solutions. But at the end of the day, you know, we have our goals that we're working towards, and that's what's driving things.
Just our last minute or so, let me ask you about your own personal habits. You're a mass transit commuter, I assume. Talk about your commute to work every day.
Yeah, I take the train generally. I've always been a transit guy.
And I've read you're a cyclist as well. You ride your bike sometimes.
Yeah, the older I've gotten and having kids, I'd say I'm not as intrepid as I was, but I still love biking. And I got to say, in particular, has totally been a game changer for me, and that's really what I use at this point. So, yeah, transit most of the time, city bike some of the time, definitely buses now and then.
Well, I was going to say, you took the bus here, as a matter of fact. I saw you posted on social
That's right,
media.
the M20, yep, up from our offices. I take the bus quite a bit, especially when I'm schlepping things with the kids. Yeah, the M20 on the way here.
We'll see if we can make it any faster.
I see some room for improvement.
All right, Transportation Commissioner Mike Flynn, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
All right, it's time for a break. Coming up, I will talk more about Governor Hochul's budget proposal and a lot more when I'm joined by 3 top journalists in our Friday Reporters Roundtable. Stay with us.
After 30 years of forecasting for New York, I've learned it takes a dedicated team to cover all the weather our city has to offer. As chief meteorologist at New York One, I'm honored to be able to help New Yorkers plan their day.
Morning, noon, or night, our team is here to bring you accurate forecasts you can count on, from severe weather updates to our Weather on the Ones. Watch the New York One weather experts with your Weather on the Ones on your TV and on the go with the Spectrum News app.
Your entertainment the way you want it. With Spectrum TV, all these streaming apps are included at no extra cost. So you can watch anything. Movies, series, sports, reality, news.
Here's a look at today's top stories.
Exclusive originals.
We await your orders.
And even more of your favorites with live TV. Stream across your devices and enjoy anywhere.
See you later.
Get it all with Spectrum TV.
I'm an ex-drug dealer, and I'll be your sub today. Two milligrams of fentanyl can be lethal. A lethal dose is in here. Who gets it, I won't know.
It's cheap, it's potent, and it's profitable.
The sad reality is fentanyl is being mixed into everything now.
More kitchen now.
My father was a New York City firefighter. My mission, like his, is to serve New Yorkers in a city that doesn't stop when the sun goes down. Being with New York One since the beginning, I'm now honored to join you even earlier each weeknight. Starting at 8 with New York Tonight, we'll explore the latest news developments, followed by New York One at 10 to wrap up your day. So join me each weeknight starting at 8 right here on New York One.
I continue to believe that now is the time to increase taxes on the most profitable corporations that do business in New York.
This is not an austerity budget, but it is a disciplined one.
So what these members of Congress are doing is illegal. It's called insider trading. They're not supposed to be buying and selling stocks based on non-public information.
I am Jamie Floyd, and I'm a radical moderate.
This is a band of armed thugs that is running around terrorizing communities, and it should be dismantled.
I am in support of abolishing ICE.
I think ICE is doing a very good job, and basically there have been very, very, very few mistakes.
His forces just murdered a woman in Minnesota.
I can tell you that of all the questions that I ask my police commissioner who she had dinner with the night before is not one of them.
For them to come in here and try to eliminate the first
Mahmoud Khalil is a New Yorker. He should remain in New York City.
Because people thought I would use force. I don't have to use force. I don't want to use force. I won't use force. You can say yes, and we will be very appreciative, or you can say no, and we will remember.
I think 2026 could be it. This could be it. This could be the big year. It's our 250th anniversary, and this is our last chance to stop Trump.
Welcome back to Inside City Hall. That was a look back at some of the week's top political stories. And joining me now to discuss them are three top journalists in our Friday Reporters Roundtable. Deborah Lee Santos is with the Bronx Free Press and the Manhattan Times. Jason Bieferman covers the Albany side of New York politics for Politico. And our State House reporter Bernadette Hogan joins us tonight as well. Thank you all for being here. Jason, I'll start with you. This is your first time on the Reporters Roundtable. Let's talk about the storm. Because, you know, this is trial by baptism, or is it baptism by fire, right, for Mamdani? I mean, it's important to get this right because it has tripped up mayors in the past.
A big question when Mamdani was running for mayor. He's a young guy in his 30s. He's only been a state assembly member, a junior one at that, and managing an office of less than a dozen people. It's a big question. Is he a manager? Can he manage an organization as large as the city of New York with such a large workforce? And a lot of people are saying this is the first real test for him, especially a big snowstorm like we're expected to get. Let's see if he cleans the streets and plows all the snow and everything works. And if he doesn't, he's going to have to pay a political price probably.
And the big decision is whether the schools remain open on Monday or whether it's a remote day. I mean, this is something that obviously has a real huge impact on parents.
It does. I mean, child care is essentially the way that the city is fundamentally managed. How those folks that have to care for little tiny tykes, or for that matter, day is exactly what was even touched on in a roundtable that I attended earlier today. It is what the economy of New York City fundamentally is about, how it is that we manage the care of our children. Never mind the moral or educational or academic implications. Fundamentally, that is what makes the economy hum. And so this will be very much part of the pageantry of New York City mayoral moments, right? What it looks like when at the end of this, I mean, he's actually not plowing anything. He's actually doing very little to make the city run. And one of the things I think we forget, or perhaps a workaround, is that fundamentally the city and the sanitation commissioners and all the rest, they make this city happen in that regard. And so fundamentally, he just has to like not mess this up too badly and make sure that the things that need to be done are done. But he's going to do none of it. I mean, we spent more time today, I think, discussing and being absorbed by brining. Thanksgiving became part of our January conversation. We will have to talk about brining the cities. I mean, that came up a number of times during the OEM briefing. He will do none of that. He will say, and I think a question was asked of him today about what he will be doing on, I think, Sunday through Monday, and he'll be with city employees. They will do the work. He just has to not get in their way.
Right. I mean, it's hard to give him too much credit or blame, depending on how things go. But he is in charge, right? I mean, he's calling the shots.
He's the boss, and at the end of the day, people will blame him, and maybe they'll praise him. One person said to me earlier, they said, he seems really eager. He was on all the morning shows. He did a briefing earlier this morning.
Wore the jacket.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, with one of the windbreakers, right?
know.
You have to have a windbreaker.
To do this kind of work.
Remember former Governor Andrew Cuomo used to break out the windbreaker when
Can you
he
imagine
was...
that closet?
Exactly. Yeah. Stopping those cars on the thruway. But yeah, I mean, look, like, Mamdani said he'll be with city workers, as you said, and he also said that he'll let parents know the schools and pivot to remote learning by noon on Sunday. The best thing that parents can have is clarity. Another big question, though, is why can't you just give kids off? And he mentioned, this struck me as interesting, he said, because we have to hit the 180 days in the school calendar, bound by state law. And he also had a little aside where he said they keep, prior officials had added additional holidays to the calendar, so we can't take that many days off. But again, you know, the mayor will get blamed either way. Actually, I pulled up a tweet from former Mayor Eric Adams, and he said, big storm on the way. Yelling at me on Twitter will not speed up snow removal. So, I mean, he's not in office anymore, but at the end of the day, people like to have, you know, a point to look at.
Eric Adams still involving himself in city affairs. There's a whole other story, which we probably won't get to tonight. We got to take a quick break for now. I will have much more with these reporters in just 2 minutes. Stay with us.
We have so many ways to stay connected. A single touch can bring us closer to the families we love, the friends we know, and the city we share. And Spectrum helps us keep connected throughout the day, every day. Including more ways to watch New York One as a Spectrum Internet customer. Watch Spectrum News New York One on the Spectrum News app, available on all your favorite devices.
There's an international travel plan with Spectrum that was an additional $10 a month, as opposed to paying a ridiculous amount per day for roaming fees. This literally felt like my old phone carrier was reaching their hand into my wallet and just helping them. Like having no surprises when it comes to my cell phone bill. And with Spectrum, that's been the case. So it's saved me a ton of money.
Real customers, real savings. To see how much you can save, visit spectrum.com/save.
Every day tells a new story. At Mornings on One, we're dedicated to bringing you the stories that matter most to start your day, with in-depth coverage of the day's news.
I'm Pat Kernan. Here are the stories we're following.
And weather updates every 10 minutes.
Tomorrow, some morning sunshine.
It's our responsibility to get you the information you need before you head out the door. Mornings on One, weekdays starting at 6 on the Spectrum News app. Free for Spectrum and Xfinity customers.
Stand clear of the closing doors, please.
Welcome back to Inside City Hall. I'm once again joined by my Reporters Roundtable, Deborah Lee Santos, Jason Bieferman, and our own Bernadette Hogan. Let's talk about the state budget. And Jason, you were there in Albany on Tuesday. $260 billion state budget. It seems like, to me, the biggest headlines, the biggest takeaways from the budget were the things that she's not doing, including, you know, staying away from any really contentious policy fights and no tax increases in the budget proposal, right? What were your big takeaways?
Uses the budget as a vehicle to put in policy, flashy policy proposals In past years, she's tried to reform bail and pare back those changes or change the criminal discovery process. But this time around, there's no big policy changes. You know, she had her huge child care plan with Mamdani. That's a big deal. But in terms of changing policy, not a lot there. She is trying to make auto insurance cheaper. She wants this theme of being affordable, the governor of affordability. But she didn't wade into those tricky topics, like, for example, raise the age, which changes the age of criminal responsibility. So some reporters called it an easy budget or a simple or a pure budget. We'll see if she inserts some stuff later on.
It's an election year, right? So you don't want to raise taxes in an election year, and it's probably smart politics to stay away from some of this other stuff.
No, obviously. I mean, I think, I don't know if it's an easier budget. I mean, it's interesting that Carl Hastie also sounded that sort of theme about affordability as well and said that's what we're interested in. I'm sure he's probably very glad that we're not getting into the conversations about criminal responsibility and all the rest. But it seems to me that, you know, even today, again, at that roundtable that I was part of, you know, the mayor is very, very much looking to align himself rhetorically and otherwise in this moment with the governor. I mean, there are a lot of conversations to be had, both on the policy side, but also politically. I mean, you know, how much will she adopt any progressive measures in this particular cycle? And yet he's very delighted to see that she's got childcare funded in this particular way, but also just looking to very much be that partner. Again, rhetorically for now, we'll see where that leads, but there seems to be sort of an alignment of interest there.
But he also wants to raise taxes on the wealthy and on corporations, and has been talking about it without even mentioning Hochul directly.
Yeah, I mean, Mamdani has always been a supporter of taxing the wealthy, right? As a legislator and now as mayor. And in his statements and his comments since the State of the State has been released, he's also said that we need, this paraphrasing, we need to raise taxes on the wealthy, not just to pay for my new ideas, but also to sustain city functions. Also citing the, over 2 years, $12 billion city deficit that his own officials will have to deal with. The real question is, does Mamdani back off and not directly blame Hochul for not raising taxes on the wealthy, or does he make this his pitch when he comes up for Tin Cup Day in February, where all city mayors all across the state come up and ask Albany for additional money for what they need for their localities, but all eyes will be on Mamdani and whether he tries to put this pressure on Hochul, and does he do it despite despite the governor already providing to a pilot program for free childcare for 2-year-olds? You know, will he be cognizant of her 2026 re-election bid, where he knows, everybody knows, that she is vulnerable to criticism from the left, especially when it comes to this issue?
Well, I'm sorry, you know, blaming the former administration is an easier cudgel than going right at the governor. You know, so it's an easier conversation. He also has legislators coming up to him all the time for the selfies that are always for, like, family members. I'm not suggesting that it makes everything just go away, but it makes it a little bit easier to have those conversations when you've got legislators looking, you know, unlike other mayors who are going to come up on Tin Cup Day and they're just sort of like part of the process. But the pageantry, again, of his being mayor changes the dynamic.
Mamdani's the main character, essentially.
But Jason, do you think that they're on a collision course? Because Mamdani doesn't seem like he's going to stop talking about tax increases, and Hochul is pretty dead set against it. And for now, I mean, they're playing nice, but I don't know, if he keeps this up, what happens?
Albany especially are trying to watch, is this Mamdani call to tax the rich, is this kind of a front? Is this something he's doing to appease the Democratic Socialists of America, to appease his base? He's said in the past multiple times, he's okay as long as he gets his stuff done. He just wants the outcome. He doesn't want to tax the rich for the sake of taxing the rich. His supporters, they like the idea of taxing the rich. So he's putting out these statements where he's politely calling on the governor, we got to tax the rich, but does he really want it behind the scenes? Will his lobbying team be really pushing on the governor? Is he going to make a stink? This is something that we are going to be watching as we approach that state budget deadline. Perhaps it's just kind of him appeasing his base and he's okay as long as he gets the outcomes.
Let's talk about redistricting for a minute, which I know tends to make people's eyes glaze over a little bit. But in this case, this is a bombshell this week that this judge ruled that the district line, Takis district, you saw her earlier in those sound bites, that they disenfranchise Black and Latino voters, and the lines have to be redrawn, which would be a huge coup for Democrats. They could basically draw Nicole Malliotakis out of existence and flip a seat back to the Democrats.
Well, it's against the national backdrop, right, of the conversation of redistricting, which, you know, is Trump's, one of his many pet projects. If that were to happen, you're looking at by February 6th, this has to happen. The commission itself is missing a member. A lot of things have to happen in short order, and it's a real question mark. I mean, the idea that we would yet again be drawn into a conversation that, frankly, no one really wants to have on the eve of all of the changes that are coming in an election year, and the governor and the mayor are going to be redrawn into that conversation, is one that raises hackles.
And this has, effects, right, on other districts. Dan Goldman, the congressman representing Manhattan and Brooklyn, who then might be drawn into this district.
Right. There's talks that the district could return to its prior lines where it was connected with Lower Manhattan, which one could argue the commonalities, right? There are not two, I guess, consistent constituencies, right? Lower Manhattan and Staten Islanders. Contiguous, right? That's the word. And the other thing that strikes me is that there is a higher Democratic enrollment, I think about like 20,000 people compared to Republicans. But the question is, why can't Democrats win on the issues? People in the Democratic Party or independents are obviously voting for Malliotakis and for Republicans. So that's like another question there.
All right, guys, a lot more to talk about, but we are going to have to leave it there. Deborah Lee Santos, Jason Bieferman, and Bernadette Hogan, thank you all for joining us tonight. And that is going to do it for tonight's show. Stay tuned for another episode of our weekly national political show, The Big Deal, tonight. Thanks for watching, everybody, and have a great weekend. We will see you the next time on Inside City Hall.
And that's a look at some of what's in the papers this morning.
You've done with the sports section.
Today's story is about the latest chapter for a beloved local business.
It's a beautiful day with temperatures in the 60s, but showers are expected in the next hour.
In a city that's always on the go, it's important to stop to hear the stories that connect us.
The news that matters to New Yorkers. That's what brings us together. That's Mornings on One.
Weekdays starting at 6.
Your entertainment the way you want it. These streaming apps are included at no extra cost, so you can watch anything.
Hey, brother, be careful.
Movies.
I've got this condition where I don't feel pain.
You're a superhero.
No.
Series.
There was another murder in the building.
Sports. Reality.
Here's to a summer you'll never forget.
News.
Here's a look at today's top story.
Exclusive originals.
We await your orders.
Even more of your favorites with live TV.
Welcome into First Take.
Stream across your devices and watch anywhere, at home or out and about. It's the entertainment experience you've been waiting for. Streaming apps included at no extra cost.
Just got that, pal. Get a good look.
With live TV and on demand. All together, all in one place for you to enjoy.
It's whatever kind of adventure we want it to be.
Get it all with Spectrum TV.
There's nothing quite like On Stage celebrates that excitement